standing here at the base of the Tinton Formation sands. These sands are Maastrichtian in age, which means they date before the extinction of the dinosaurs. We're going to walk up the section. This particular piece of the outcrop is not as vertical as some of the other pieces. We're going to walk up the section and I'll take you up through perhaps the last 500,000 years of the age of the dinosaurs. This is a sand, quartz sand, fairly clean at its base. I'm near the base of the Tinton, and as we walk up you can see that there's bits more of clay. It is the little gray blebs, as we would call them, and we can continue up and see more and more clays, and then we start seeing these little pods or blebs of green sand. What this is telling us is that this section was deposited in progressively deeper water depths. So down at my feet was probably just offshore, just in the shore face zone, as we would call it. As we progress upwards, we're getting in the part of the shore face which is only affected by major storms. We call that the lower shore face. And in fact, probably nearby, there were deeper water deposits which were reworked into this shore face system. It gets progressively muddier toward the top, which means it's getting deeper, and then all of a sudden there is a very hard cemented layer of red, brown, cemented material. Most places the Tinton consists exclusively 10 feet thick of this hard cemented layer. This is the one section which exposes the history below. Right above that cemented layer we have a clay. And we know from studies of dinoflagellates that at this level in the clay, the first survivors of the Cretaceous extinction come in. A dinoflagellate cyst named Inornata appears here. This is the so-called Danian, the beginning of the Cenozoic era. This is Maastrichtian. And in this bed here, there's an enrichment in iridium that we have measured from cores that we drilled at this pit. If we go up further section, there's a green sand up here, which is the Hornerstown Formation. The Hornerstown Formation is clearly Danian in age. That is, again, the oldest stage of the Cenozoic, and is deposited in fairly deep water. That is greater than about 50-60 meters, well below storm wave base. And in between, there is a clay layer. It's green at the bottom, red at the bottom and green at the top. This clay layer is the event bed associated with the mass extinction. When the impact occurred, we had basically just offshore beachy environment, and from the earthquakes generated from the impact, seiche deposits swashing back and forth were generated, and that deposited this clay. And near the top of the clay we have these white layers. These white layers contain altered spherules. There are also clay clasts that contain spherules. The spherules were deposited hours to days after the impact and then reworked in these seiche deposits. Return to normal marine deposition occurred here, but this whole bed here was deposited in the scale of days to weeks. And this represents the event bed associated with the mass extinction at the end of the Cretaceous. This pit, this Campo mine, provides some of the best exposures of the Cretaceous Paleogene mass extinction anywhere on the planet. And it tells us what it looked like in very shallow water deposits, that in fact deposition was interrupted by the swashing back and forth associated with the massive earthquakes. Although the impact occurred over 1,000 kilometers away, the earthquakes would have been felt here and then would have generated these sage deposits. That's all I got for now.